They say money doesn't buy happiness, but they never tell you what it does buy: silence, distance, and a very particular brand of loneliness. The kind that lives in echoing halls with million-dollar art on the walls and not a single photo of you in sight. I grew up in a mansion that sat like a crown atop the hills of Westchester. Pillars at the front, a staff that knew us better than we knew each other, and a view that stretched for miles. But I always felt like I was just visiting. I was James William Aldrich III, second son to Henry and Margaret Aldrich. In that world, second meant surplus. Not an heir. Not an accident, but a contingency plan. My older brother, Daniel, was born with the family crest stitched into his soul. Blonde hair, strong jaw, Ivy League charisma. From the moment he took his first breath, everything was designed for him: his education, his inheritance, his future. I was born 3 years later. There was no parade, no new wing added to the estate in my name. Just a passing mention in the society column and a line in the family newsletter. At 7, I built a model airplane by myself, spent a week on it. Daniel got a new gaming system that year. My parents barely looked up. "That's nice, Jamie," my mother had said without touching the wings or asking how I did it. I learned quickly. Daniel shined. I was supposed to be quiet. When we were kids, our father used to take Daniel to the office on Saturdays. They'd leave early in the morning, him in a tailored suit, Daniel in a smaller one like a mock-up of his future. I asked once if I could come too. My dad looked at me like I'd asked to pilot a space shuttle. "It's not really your thing," he said. "You're more creative, aren't you?" That was code. Creative meant weak. Creative meant not one of them. I tried, though. God, did I try. I played the cello because they said classical music was respectable. I joined debate, won medals, even landed a piece in the New Yorker by 19. But it never mattered. At every family dinner, every fundraiser, every toast, I was introduced as Daniel's brother. Not James. Not Jamie. Just an accessory to someone else's greatness. College was the first place I could breathe. I chose Stanford, far from New York, far from them. I went without their help. No trust fund. No name drop. Just my scholarship and a determination that came from years of being overlooked. I majored in computer science, built an app that started as a side project and exploded almost overnight. By 26, I had my own office, my own employees, and investors who didn't care about the Aldrich name. They only cared that I delivered. That's when the calls started. It was subtle at first. A thinking of you text from my mother. An email from Daniel with a subject line that just said, "Catch up?" Then came the family dinner invitation after 4 years of near silence. I almost didn't go, but some stupid part of me still wanted to be seen. So I put on a suit, one I paid for, and walked into the house I once called home. They greeted me with champagne and smiles that felt borrowed. Mom kissed my cheek too slowly. Dad clapped me on the back like I was a business partner he hadn't decided to trust yet. Daniel hugged me and said, "It's been too long, brother." It felt rehearsed. Dinner was lavish. The dining room looked the same, chandelier like a galaxy overhead, the same mahogany table that seated 14 people and still felt too small for the egos in the room. But there was tension hiding under the silverware. Finally, it came out. Between bites of roast duck and flattery that sounded foreign in their mouths. "There's an opportunity," my father began, dabbing his mouth with a cloth napkin. "We've hit a bit of turbulence. Legal setbacks. A few of our assets tied up. Temporary, of course." Daniel jumped in. "We thought, since you're doing so well, maybe there's a way to work together. A loan. An investment. Whatever you're comfortable with." I set my fork down. For a second, I couldn't even speak. I just stared at them. "You want my help," I said slowly. "After all these years?" My father leaned back, face unreadable. "Family supports family, Jamie. You've done well for yourself. And now?" "No," I said. The room went quiet. You could hear the ice melt in someone's glass. "No," my mother asked, eyes narrowing. I looked at them all, people who had ignored me, belittled me, pretended I didn't exist unless it made them look good. "Family supports family," I repeated. Where was that when I was sleeping in a dorm with 2 roommates while Daniel had a penthouse paid for? Where was that when I called for help and got voicemail for 2 years straight? I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the polished floor. You only want me now because I have something you need. But I built this life without you. I owe you nothing. I walked out before they could respond. Drove back to my apartment, not a mansion, not a palace, but a home I built. My phone buzzed with messages all night. I didn't answer a single one. That was 2 years ago. Since then, my company's tripled in value. I've been on the cover of Forbes, and now, when people say my name, they don't ask about Daniel. I'm no longer the spare. I'm the fire they left unattended, now burning brighter than anything they ever imagined. That night after the dinner, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor of my apartment, lights off, looking out the window at the city I had made my own. The weight of everything hit me at once. Years of being ignored, fighting to prove I existed, building something from scratch without anyone in my corner. What they didn't see, what they never bothered to ask, were the nights I stayed awake until 4 a.m. debugging code that made no sense, the months I ate instant noodles because I couldn't afford anything else, the silent panic attacks before investor pitches because I didn't grow up knowing how to speak their language. They saw success. They didn't see the cracked hands behind the gold. But I survived it. Alone. I negotiated with VCs who wanted my soul, pitched in rooms where I was the youngest by a decade, and still left with a signed deal. I taught myself the rules of the world they said I'd never belong to, and then rewrote them. When my company finally turned a profit, I didn't celebrate with champagne in a yacht club. I walked to the small taco truck down the street from my apartment and ate on the curb, watching the sunset burn orange across the sky like it was mine. That night, for the first time, I didn't feel like the spare. I felt like the author of my own life. Everything I built on scraped knees, quiet fury, and the belief that I was enough. And I was right. Now, years later, I still run my company, but the best part of my day isn't in boardrooms or headlines. It's coming home to my wife, Lena, whose love was never tied to my last name or net worth, and our daughter, Ava, who runs into my arms like I'm the whole world. I look at them and realize I didn't just prove my family wrong. I proved something deeper to myself, that I could build not only a business, but a life filled with the kind of love and peace money can't manufacture. They are my legacy now, not stock portfolios, not crumbling estates, but laughter in the mornings, tiny handprints on the glass, and a home that finally feels like mine.